Welcome, everyone, to Urban Healers Podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Naylor Lillard, and one of the mental health therapist associates at Urban Healing Counseling. Urban Healers Podcast and Urban Healing Counseling was founded by our CEO, Janaea Sattler, who cultivates an environment where asking for help is our greatest strength. Today, this podcast will focus on part 2 of our series, Teen Things, a mental health conversation, where we will discuss the question, is my mother a bully? We welcome back our guest, Lakia Hines, who is a licensed clinical social worker and one of our amazing mental health therapists at Urban Healing Counseling. Welcome back, Lakia.
Hi.
We are going to dive right in because this is part 2 of our discussion in asking the question, is my mother a bully? Can you talk to our listeners about that?
I think the biggest thing that impacted me when I've overheard or seen conversations that young people are having, it seems like there's a disconnect between parents and their children. It seems like children feel like parents just don't, listen. They don't want to hear, what they have to say. And I remember one of the biggest things recently I read, and I even spoke to my mom about this, was the conversation about Black girls and their mothers being their first bullies. And so that really...
Mm-hmm. Did you all hear their audience? Oh, the chat is lighting up on that. Can you repeat what you just said? Because the chat is on fire with that statement. Mm-hmm. Please say that one more time for our audience, and then I will let you go ahead and finish because this is going to be good. I told you Lakia is a champion for the teens and things. So go ahead, Lakia.
One of the conversations that I saw was Black girls stating that their mothers were their first bullies. And that was the first interaction that they had with other Black women. And so it kind of influenced the dynamic of, or the direction of their relationships from that point on out.
Wow. And listening to what you just said, which is so powerful, how does that sort of connection or attachment to the atmosphere of what that introduces into a young person, what other sort of challenges or disconnections or gaps does that sort of create, that type of dynamic, mother being seen as the first bully?
Mm-hmm. It creates communication issues, not knowing how to express your feelings, not really knowing what feelings to express. It influences how you interact with the world, how you interact with other adults, outside of your home, impacts your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, whether you feel worthy of love, because the person who is supposed to love you the most hates you. At least that's what it seems like, or that's what it feels like to a child, I'm sure.
Wow. That is some deep insight. I mean, the chat is, I've got all kind of comments in the chat right now. So I've got one person who's is a parent sort of asking, how do we do course correction in this? Because sometimes how we talk to our daughters in particular, how we interact with them, how we respond to them, how we answer their questions, all can be stemmed generationally from how our mothers may have interacted with us. So how do we start the course correction process, Lakia?
I think we should start within, or parents should start within themselves. I'm not a parent yet, so I can't say within us, but I think parents should look at themselves and identify, like, if they did not have a good relationship with their own mother or mother figure or person that raised them, if they did not have a good relationship with that person, what would they have wanted that relationship to look like, right? Like, what if it could be done over, or if they had a say so in how their parent figure interacted with them, how would they have wanted to look? And would it look different than how they are now interacting with their own child?
Wow. So are there some verbiage that parents can use as they begin to start to course correct and how they interact and communicate with their daughters in particular?
I think that they should start with possibly, I'm sorry, if there is a strain currently in the relationship. I think sitting down and talking to your daughters and asking them, what do you guys think about my parenting? You know, what do you think about our relationship as a whole? And if at any time I've made you feel unwanted, unheard, unloved, then I'm sorry. I may not have the current skills, but I do want to do better. I think being vulnerable with your children and, you know, opening up that room or that space for communication in your home is possibly the very first step. Because when we think about Black homes and how it's really like I said what I said, you know, when it comes to parenting, and a child should stay in a child's place. But do we really have an understanding of what a child's place is, or are we taught this is what a child's place should be, and so this is just how it'll be generation after generation after generation? Because we can identify that children have a voice, children have feelings, you know, they have thoughts, they have expressions, and they don't always get to express that, especially in a Black household. And I remember, and my mom says this often, but I remember when I was younger and my mom was, I don't know what she said, but I was like, well, why can't I say how I feel? And it was like, And so my mom, she jokes about that now. And so I still repeat, like, and I still feel like children should be able to say how they feel. In a disrespectful way, no. I do think that children should still be respectful, but I think that they should be able to express how they feel. And so to answer your question, that should be the first thing, is maybe start with some I'm sorry's and then open up the floor for a better communication between the parent and the child.
Would you suggest like one or a few of those ways could be, you know, making a, you know, game night, you know, with your caregiver, or carving out some type of specific time? It could be going for ice cream and then having a conversation, or, you know, ways to build bridges towards the I'm sorry's can sometimes be a bigger barrier than the actual word I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing in the millennial space, it's, you know, being attentive and holding the attention in that moment, so that everybody values what that moment brings, right? Lakia, thank you so much. And for anyone who wants to know more about Lakia, please go to urbanhealingcounseling.com, and the information from this podcast will be available to you on our YouTube channel. So Lakia, we would like to say thank you so much for coming to Urban Healers Podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for having me.